Welcome to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen. I'm your host. I have a co-host, Michael Duarte, which is under the weather right now, and we're saying prayers for him and hope everything works out, and he'll be back shortly. And so instead of Mike today, it's Jerry Bruce. Welcome, Jerry Bruce. You're my co-host.
Thank you, Cary.
It's good
Glad to be back.
You've been on this show before.
Several times.
Very cool. So welcome back. You're going to help me deal with Dan and Carol, aren't you?
They don't deal with us.
Exactly. But before we go there, Families in Action is brought to you by your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We've been on the air almost 13 years. So special thanks to KHTS and the Goldmans for allowing us to get the message out that we feel is so important. Also, we're brought to you by Action Family Counseling, which is alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers for adolescents and adults. And we have everything from outpatients to residentials, and here we are. So, you know what? Usually we play, but I want to bring Dan and Carol in, just make them part of this whole thing, because I think what we're going to start with is pretty important. So Dan Broyles and I go way back.
Yep.
You're the pastor over at the Grace Baptist. Introduce yourself and Carol.
Sure. So my name is Dan Broyles. I'm the pastor at Grace Baptist Church, also a licensed marriage family therapist, and we're just really glad to be here and be part of what you guys are doing, and appreciate also what Action does and the rehab and the support they provide to families. And we're just here to also want to provide support for families and individuals who are going through tough times, either personally or individually. And with me is Carol McCabe. Why don't you share a little about yourself?
Well, I've known Dan for about 10 years now. I got involved in the care ministry about 10 years ago, and I've been meeting with individuals at Grace Baptist. I have a secular job, also working with troubled adolescents.
So that's my world, huh? Mm-hmm. Somebody said, how long have you been doing it? I've been doing this for 30-something years.
Wow.
A long time. But the reason I kind of wanted to bring you in the beginning is we've been screaming about the heroin and the opiate epidemic. Mm-hmm. Now, we've been screaming it here for 5 years. Now the whole world's starting to scream it. Mm-hmm. They finally caught up to us. In fact, we had the Channel 4 News in here, 3 weeks ago, doing a special on it. And sadly, we're losing almost 50,000 people a year to the opiate overdoses. That's just overdoses. I mean, that's people that are dying from pills and heroin. That's not including suicides, homicides, robberies. I mean, I can go on for days because of this drug. So it's really pretty sickening. And fortunately, right now, everybody's starting to talk about it everywhere, which is about time. But just, there's here, Anthony Prado, great kid. Mm-hmm. His funeral's this Saturday. Mm-hmm. So, and what Mom, I love what she put on Facebook. Heroin might have taken his life, but he's in the angel's hands now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to this. A little girl that you were dealing with, 17 years old.
Yes.
2 weeks ago.
Yep, we're best friends with us, and unfortunately, she
with you. What do you meaning?
In residential at the adolescent up in Bouquet, and she was brought in that night, and her best friend overdosed and died that night.
That's here in Santa Clarita. Both of these
here
people.
in Santa Clarita Valley.
Right here.
Yeah, I think one of the tough parts about that, too, is behind every one of those individuals is a family who's really hurting now. Mm-hmm. And the domino of pain is really tough for those families going through grief and loss and regrets and all sorts of stuff that they're having to face now.
Yeah,
and absolutely. There's the teachers that they're teaching these kids that are invested in them. For every one addict, there's 10 people directly affected, and then it's bronze out for those that are indirectly affected. Mm-hmm. The extended family members, and everyone that they've interacted with and played sports with, or all that, all their years, they are impacted by their loss.
Mm-hmm. It's just crazy. And what's the answer? You're never going to take drugs away. They're never, ever going to go anywhere. So the good thing is now that everybody's starting to scream about it, because I really believe knowledge is power. So if you inform yourself and you get good information and you have these conversations with your children when they're how old? 3?
8.
No, I believe in way younger than that. I believe in teachable moments when they're really young. If you're watching TV and your kid's 4 and he can understand what's going on, explain it to him. Have a conversation. And then at 5 and at 6 and at 7 and at 8, and just keep it going. Because when you talk to parents and you say, have you talked to your kids about drugs, alcohol, sex, violence, and all that? Everyone says yes. When you ask the kids, hey, have your parents talked to you? They go, I don't remember that. Maybe once. So it's one of those conversations that has to start at home, and it has to start at home, and it has to start young, and it has to be consistent.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest differences between a one-time conversation and an ongoing conversation. So a parent might have talked once 6 years ago with their kid, but this needs to be an ongoing thing as almost a culture of a family who talks about these difficult things, really for prevention's sake.
And honest and open conversations, not scare tactics.
Right.
Not say, you'll die, you'll go to jail. Honest that, yes, unfortunately, these things are pleasurable to us, but, the end result is this, short-term, long-term use of any of them.
And people don't see it. No one believes it's going to happen to them. It's just like no one believes they're going to grow up and be a heroin addict or any of that stuff. All drug abuse starts innocently. It really doesn't. And here's you can help me with this or jump into this. I believe there's 3 categories of kids. Okay? Number 1 category. No matter what kind of a dad or mom you are, these are level-headed kids. They know what they want. They know what they're going to do. They're going to stay out of trouble. They're going to go to school, get good grades, and they just know where they're going in life, right?
Absolutely.
And that's one category. The next category, and this is the smallest category, I believe, are the kids that are they're not level-headed. They're going to do what they want to do. They're high maintenance, they're going to ditch school, play with drugs, fight, drive too fast, just get themselves in trouble. The next category of kids, and this is the largest category, are what I call the fence sitters. You know what that means? What?
They're sitting on the fence with, knowing where they're going to go and kind of lost in between, and they can't really make that decision either side of the fence.
Now, 20 years ago, when little Jerry went to school, who was waiting for him when he came home?
Both my parents.
Okay, or mom, or somebody was home with milk and cookies or something like that. Little Jerry goes to school today. In most homes, who's waiting?
Nobody.
That's not true. That's so far from true. And I'll explain that to you. I think Dan knows where I'm going. Do you know where I'm going?
Yeah.
Who's waiting for him? Everybody.
Everybody is. All the contacts online, all the friends that don't influence well, they're all waiting. They're ready.
Everybody's there. So if mom and dad are even living together, I mean, we are a divorce capital of the world here. If they're even living together, in most homes, they're both working. So little Jerry goes to school, and he's with his buddies for 8 hours. Comes home to an empty house? No. Even if there's no one there, everybody's there. With social media and all that craziness, what is the last thing a teenager does before they go to sleep? The very last thing.
Check their phone.
But very last thing, right? Is they check their phone. What is the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning before they use the restroom?
Check the phone.
Yep.
Think things change Think things change in this world right now? What do you think the peer pressure is? And here's what happens. So you go to bed with your friends. You wake up with your friends. You go to school with your friends. You come home to nobody but your friends. So then mom comes home and says, hey, Jerry, how was your day? It was good. How was school? It was cool. You have any homework? Done it. Are you hungry? I ate. They go right back in their room, and what are they doing?
Back on their social media.
Back on the social media.
That's why I emphasize to the parents before they leave my facility, get your passwords from your kids so you can go on there and look at their social media, no matter what, Snapchat, whatever else it is.
But you see what I'm saying? Here's what's going on. People are asking me all the time, why are we losing so many kids? Why are so many kids starting to use drugs at such a young age? I just said it. It's pretty simple. We're losing the kids right now that would never have used drugs before because there's not enough contact. They're too much invested in their buddies versus family. And all those crazy things, families that pray together, families that eat together, families that play together, they really do well. Those kids do good.
Yeah, because every kid wants to feel connected. no matter what their background, they long to be connected. And so I really think our current generation is the most connected but isolated people we know. Is they feel connected online, but it's not true connection.
Right.
And so it's filling in the gap for where the family isn't. And there's a lack of purpose then, and connection, and all those different things.
Dan, even when you go to a restaurant and you watch families sitting eating, what are they doing?
They're on the phone.
They're texting. The kids are texting their buddies. The moms were looking at Facebook. I mean, and it's just like, even when we're together, we're not together anymore.
The last conference I went to, they discussed the social media and the online persona that people present for themselves. And these kids have this online persona, but then they have the one at home where there is nobody at home. It's just them, or they're isolated, or they're having difficulties with the family at home. But online, everything's great, and they're partying, and they're happy, and they get all the shots of them doing all these things. Documenting their life, through images and selfies and stuff.
Kids learn everything from their internet nowadays. I mean, you have to admit, the internet's great. Social media is wonderful, but it also comes with all the negative stuff. I mean, if we're not teaching our kids about drugs, sex, rock and roll, where are they going to learn it? For any parents out there that have young kids, get your little cell phone out and just say the word porn. And see over 1 million different places where you can watch the most crazy things you ever seen. Your kids got this. And I'm not saying take your phone away, but you better be paying serious attention to what's going on out there.
Well, one of the suggestions I give to parents a lot of times is don't just ask who your friends are at school, ask who your friends are online. Who's your top friends online? And ask those questions, because they'll have them. People are popping up all over the place to try to connect with their kids.
Right. And
the parents really have no idea. And this kid continues to long for connection and acceptance.
Yeah. And if you don't give it to them, guess what?
Yeah, someone will.
Someone will. Why do you think gangs are so popular?
Right.
Because it's a family. They really do care and love each other. And there's a hierarchy and everything else there.
Yeah.
So and I'm telling you, the kids we're losing today are the kids in that last category. They're the fence sitters. So they're looking for a place, like Nan said, to belong. And it's pretty easy to belong in the drug culture.
Absolutely.
Pick up a bong and smoke it, and everybody says, "Dude, I love you," and that's it. They're part of something.
They bring a bag or whatever to that group, and they're already included in. No matter what other group they were a part of before that.
What's the gateway drug? Cigarettes.
Sugar.
But really, almost every addict I ever met, if you really sit down and talk to them, when we're young, we have what you call contracts. When I grew up, I'll never. Remember those? Why would a kid smoke a cigarette today? It says on the box, here's what it says on most packs. It says, warning, the Surgeon General has determined, doesn't say maybe, that cigarettes causes, doesn't say might anymore, lung cancer, emphysema, and then it goes on. So
but some of them are skipping over that now and going straight to marijuana.
Well, either way, here's what happens is I'll never do this. The only two reasons a kid will smoke a cigarette is, one, it's a learned behavior from home. Two, it's they want to fit into what everybody else, all the cool kids are doing. So here's what happens: they smoke a cigarette. It's only a cigarette. I'll never use drugs. Dude, it's only pot. It's natural. God put it there for us to smoke. Well, okay, I'll smoke a little pot. I won't use real drugs.
It's medicine.
And as we start breaking our contracts, all those other drugs are what I call drugs of opportunity. They're waiting for your kids. So we need to really stay involved with our kids. And that brings me to the Prado family. I'm sorry that you lost your kid, and I'll see you Saturday. I'll be there. But that brings me to some of the great stuff that Dan and Carol do here in Santa Clarita. You guys are like my heroes.
Oh, thank you.
No, we have a lot of heroes in Santa Clarita.
Right.
The people that really go out there and really make a difference. Mm-hmm. But unless you're right there involved with it, nobody knows about it.
Right. Right.
So tell us a little bit about you and why you're doing what you're doing, and we'll go wherever you want to go. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I would even want to add one more thing to what you said about some of the marijuana use, which I'll jump into what we're doing, is the great escape from their personal life,
right,
or their emotional pain, or the lack of connection. It's a great escape. And so one of the things that Carol and I have both seen with within our church context or even the community is people have so much stress they don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
And they'll find anything to escape from it, even if it causes damage or harm. And so one of our great desires is to find a safe place for people to get help, support, and not be isolated. And one of the groups that even Cary leads is called Relational Pain, and how to even face pain in general. So,
And by the way, you know what we teach people in our adult rehabs? Is how to deal with feelings, because they don't have a clue. That when people had a good day, they want to party, celebrate. Oh, we had a great day, so let's go get high. When they had a bad day or they're angry, they don't know how to deal with anger, so they want to get loaded. When they're feeling depressed, that overwhelming urge to get high comes over. So it kind of fits into what you're saying. We have
I
to
tell them there's 3 times I use. I feel good, I want to feel better. I feel bad, I want to feel better. I don't feel anything, and I want to feel something.
Right. Exactly.
right, and that's so pervasive, I think, a lot of times, especially with young people. So I'm curious, what's some of the things you've seen with people who want to avoid pain and are tempted to be isolated?
Yeah, I think one of the most telling questions is what does a person do when they feel pain? And with the adolescents, it's usually, that's their substance of, choice that that's their go-to, because they don't want to feel pain. They want to be numb from pain. And if that's something that they've learned and they don't know any other coping skill rather than just, not feel it and numb themselves to it, we see them then as adults that are experiencing, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, relational pain. They've not learned any other coping mechanism except to just, feel numb.
Right.
And they progress, a lot of them, through different types of substances. So it's sort of taking a different look than our relational pain class is taking a different look at pain, what it's there for. It's a signal that there's something wrong and that we need to do something. But then how can we do something in a healthy way is something that a lot of the adults have never even looked at before.
They don't have they're really clueless, especially people that have been using any kind of drugs, because it numbs everything. And all of a sudden, when somebody comes into rehab and we take the drugs away from them, all of a sudden all those overwhelming feelings come back.
Right.
And they're really struggling how to do that. I can walk into one of an adult unit and I can look around and see people's in their eyes. I can almost tell you who's going to leave. It's like you could, before they know it, you could see it in their face, right?
The struggle with them is the pleasure they got from the drug initially,
Right.
and that changed that feeling. The adolescents don't grasp it. Eventually, that does wear off, and it is just being numb or taking away that feelings. The early stages of addiction are like that. For anybody, they just don't grasp. But eventually, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, too, the long-term impacts of their choices and what they're doing. And so one of the things we really try to do is help give people hope and connection with both people and with God. And how do you have really true acceptance, true care, instead of trying to face this all alone, which never works good for any of us, just as human beings. I don't think we were designed to live in isolation.
Right.
And so part of it, how can we provide an environment to get that connection with God and others in a really healthy way?
Yeah. And we're talking about stress. I think almost every addict that goes out and relapses over stress. Or they go back to their old buddies and that kind of stuff. But stress seems to be the leading cause of relapse. So it's kind of, one of those things we have to teach people. The other thing that we have to teach people in our rehabs, we have to go on a commercial, and this is kind of scary. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it. We almost have to teach people how to relapse. You know why? Because almost everyone that I know that's losing their life has stopped drugs for a while and then pick up again and use too much. So it's kind of one of those kind of things where we have to rethink our treatment. It's like we don't want people to ever use drugs, right? But if you do, how do you say that?
And it's difficult. The relapse, the drug doesn't give them that effect that they used to.
Right.
And the pre-contemplation piece is there.
Yeah, so what happens is their mind needs more than their body can handle, and that's how come we're losing so many people right now.
And their mind is getting higher than the drugs do. It's the recent study they just did, and that's a problem.
Yeah. So when we come back, we're going to get more. We're going to talk to Dan and Carol more about what they're doing in the church and here in Santa Clarita. So we will be right back. This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.